welcome to Pale Reflections, a proud member of the Duff Network where we dive... Nope. Let's start that again. Hello and welcome to Pale Reflections, a proud member of the Duff Network where we reflect on Wildbow's most ritualistic work as it releases. I'm Ruben Morehouse.
I'm Elliot Diebold. You know,
And we are
Ruben,
back-
that whole thing's just proof that patterns become reality.
It's classic packed stuff. We're back to talk about Stolen Away 2.4, 2.5, and an email leak, a real Panama Papers situation. That is the bonus content for this week.
Yeah, it's a cool pair of chapters. I'm excited to get into them.
Yeah. Let's begin by talking about 2.4, which is a Lucy perspective chapter, and it starts with Lucy waking up to laughter coming in from downstairs.
Yep.
Her aunt is here to visit and is chit-chatting with her mother, mostly about her, or just about the frustrations of their life in general, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously Lucy's a big part of her life, so she just comes up.
Yeah.
I love how I don't want to use the term eavesdropping for what Lucy's doing, because it doesn't quite feel like eavesdropping for me comes with all this negative connotations of, she's like trying to sneakily hear, where it's just like Lucy's just kind of there and they're just talking loudly.
Yeah, they're just loudly talking. Yeah. And talking about sensitive topics that Jasmine, Lucy's mother, doesn't want Lucy to overhear often, which is a bit crazy because they're seem to be talking at a volume that is audible to everybody in the house.
Yeah, exactly. It just made me think of you often see that whole sort of thing, like when there's advice being offered for parents of kids going through a divorce or whatever. It's like, oh, kids are so much more aware of what's going on than you give them credit for, like blah, blah, blah. And Lucy is kind of that to a T. It's almost a bit of a recurring thing in this chapter. Like, it obviously comes into it a lot at the end, but she's picking up a lot more than everyone is kind of trying to put on her. And it's just like, it's this whole thing. Like, I think Lucy's someone who, and we've already sort of talked about, she doesn't want people to have to worry about her. Like, she's sort of trying to be this hero for everyone else, but she doesn't want to burden others. And like, her and her mum are both kind of doing this for each other. And it's almost kind of painful to watch them both hurting themselves to protect the other one.
Yeah, definitely. It's I don't know. It's a draining conversation that we overhear, right? And that's what this first part of this chapter, and I guess the entire chapter, kind of upholds, is just this it comes to me as exhausted, right?
Yeah.
Like, Lucy just feels exhausted, and we see a lot of beats of this throughout the chapter that is just, her life is just draining, just draining her energy.
Yeah, I mean, this morning routine segment at the start in particular just fucking sucks. Like, she's woken up early, but not in the good way. Like, she just feels like shit, but she's kind of got to get up because her hair is being a nightmare in the weather. And then there's all the really interesting stuff about how the way she dresses and does her makeup and her hair is all about it's so not even defensive, or maybe defensive, or it's kind of even offensive in the sense that she's trying to be hitting people with it, not as in she's trying to offend people. But it's all just, there's just such a grind to her day. It's such a contrast to Verona, who's just kind of given up on that aspect of life in a lot of ways. She was just kind of cleaning the house just to get something out of her dad, whereas Lucy has kind of accepted that this is the way she makes it easier, is she kind of has to struggle through this stuff herself to get other people to fuck off, and it's so rough.
Yeah. I guess this chapter is kind of, I mean, the vibe I got from this chapter is that it's really a great explanation of all the institutionalized racism and systematic racism that Lucy is kind of suffering at the hands of, and how draining of an experience that is. And it's exhausting, right? This story, I mean, we've been in Lucy's head for a week, and already the anger and upset that she feels with the people around her that are letting her down is so justified.
Yeah.
And thinking of the fact that she lives this life constantly and is constantly disadvantaged, yes, but also just has so much put upon her through no fault of her own.
Yeah.
It really is shit.
It's those little things. I think that's what this chapter in particular really starts
Yes.
to capture is it's the little things which when you highlight them in isolation, it's not like a thing, but it's the fact that you're getting hit with that all the time. Like the example I'd go to is there's the bit when she's at dinner at Avery's and Kerry just sort of goes to like touch her
To
hair.
touch her hair.
And
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things like on the one hand you kind of can't be mad at like what Kerry's like 4 or something
Yeah.
for like being interested in hair that like is just sort of different, but at the same time like just having to put up with little shit like that all the time would
Yeah.
drive you up the wall. So like yeah, I think this chapter does such a good job of starting to really hammer home how much more difficult Lucy's life is because of this shit.
Yeah, and it's kind of small things where like there's no right answer to it.
Yeah.
Like there's no solution to it, right? Like the thing with Carrie, what Lucy does is I think a pretty great solution where she basically just does the same thing back to her and it
Yeah.
demonstrates to Carrie pretty effectively, hey, like that's not like look how this feels,
Yeah.
right? That's an effective solution. But a lot of the things are things like, you know, Mr. Beta being shitty to her,
Mm.
but in a way that is insidious enough that I don't think Lucy can effectively do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
Or circumstances like Paul, where it's all things where it's like she doesn't even she doesn't have an explanation for any of it. It's things that she can't challenge because they're weaselly enough and insidious enough that they can't really be dealt with, or if they are, that's just kind of fighting one battle when there's many out there. And so it's this thing of like
Yeah.
so many bits and pieces that you just can't fight them all, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, we even see Avery get caught up in it a bit. I'm jumping ahead in 2.5. Like, we'll get
Yes.
there. But, like, as well, I can't help but, like, think that it's very intentional that this is so strongly highlighted here after we just dealt with the fairy, who I think are maybe our, like, magical examples of that. Because, like, they didn't break any rules in all the stuff they did. But it was so clearly designed to cause the Kenneteers like indirect like mental pain. Like the fairies are having fun with them in this way that doesn't quite break the rules, so they can't call them out on it,
Yeah.
but they're still just being the absolute fucking worst. And you know, like again, I'm gonna keep tying stuff back to this idea of justice and consequences, and you know, this is something we're tackling. Like when you have these institutions, these systems, and people can just skirt within the lines so that it's like, oh, well, you can't get me in trouble for that. Like it wasn't technically wrong. And I think the fairy and then all this stuff targeting Lucy like are both great sort of examples of that.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the kind of overarching themes that we see throughout this chapter. To bring in some lighter things, we get more discussion of Booker, who seems very cool, and I hope that we get to meet him in the story one day.
Yeah, because he's definitely like, you can tell Lucy and Jasmine just both think he's the fucking best.
He's the bee's knees, yeah. Totally.
And you know, I trust both of their judgments, so I have just kind of assumed he is. Like he and well, I mean, everyone in Lucy's family actually just seems like they kick ass. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I think people can change when they move out for uni and come back after a year or a semester or whatever, and
Yeah.
he's bringing his girlfriend, so there's the potential for drama, especially if one of them's a practitioner, which of course is always going to be a theory that gets
Or both.
yeah, floating around. I don't like. I'm cautiously optimistic that Booker's just going to come back and be like this rock for Lucy to lean on because, I mean, Verona and Avery say they're going to step up, but I still think Lucy could use more support.
Oh, yes, of course. I think all three of these girls could use more support that isn't just
Yeah.
another 13-year-old girl. Yeah, speaking of secret practitioners, we also meet Aunt Heather, who is great.
God damn it.
And she's like, I love that she's been introduced because speaking about, you know, stronger support for these girls, she's like perfectly positioned as, she's not like serious enough to be intimidating or like an adult that you'd be super worried about confiding in. Like she's cool enough to be the cool aunt,
Yeah.
but also like mature enough and emotionally mature enough to seem trustworthy and like someone you can depend on. So
Yeah,
it's perfectly positioned for Lucy to, you know, reach out for help.
Yeah, exactly. Like she is. She's perfect. She's the cool aunt, but she's not the like. Well, she's a bit of a train wreck, but not like too bad of one. You know, like she's still someone you can lean on. And I mean, that's that whole thing. Like Lucy brings up, Aunt Heather is the only member of her dad's family that actually still kind of is regularly in touch with them and helping them out. Like
Mm,
even her grandparents, they're cool, but they're just sort of too far away, and they've got enough of their own shit that they're not really helping as much as maybe Lucy and Jasmine need. So yeah, I don't know. It's just every time we meet members of Lucy's family, I'm just like, God, it's so tragic that Lucy and Jasmine have ended up struggling like this, because it just seems like every member of their family is just the coolest person, and it's like,
mm,
how has this happened?
yeah, it's yeah, it's just shitty, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we found out last chapter that these three were chosen because they have, in some ways, shitty lives. So, I guess if
yeah.
Lucy's life wasn't at least a little bit shitty, she wouldn't have been one of the protagonists of this story.
Yeah, it's just a shame because you can see like it's just a series of unfortunate events that's led Lucy to be in that position, because there's she's so close to having a fantastic network to be able to lean on in her family,
Yeah.
and it's sort of just a series of events have conspired to mean that just isn't quite happening.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping we get to see a bit more of Heather before she leaves. I'm sure you're thinking, because I hope one day there's a time where a character can get introduced to this story and we don't immediately assume they're secretly a practitioner.
I don't think so.
No, I'm not optimistic that that will happen, but yeah,
Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess like we're about to sort of move into the next chunk of this chapter, and I just like it's so interesting because I usually see a lot of the Wildbow chapters as kind of chopped in half. Like there's often a
Mm.
sort of lead up and a follow through to them. This is obviously a very long chapter, and you can kind of see there's like three segments. Like we have this morning that's just the grind, the
Yeah.
negativity, the oppression that we've sort of talked about, and then it gets you just as angry as Lucy is.
Yes.
And that pressure kind of gets released a bit, or at least it did for me, when she just goes off at Verona and Avery, which we're about to
Yeah.
get to. And I was just like, fuck, that's great. And then that kind of put me off guard, because I was like, oh, cool, Lucy's going to get her support. She got all her anger out. It's
Yeah.
fine. And then we
And
get hit with
Avery
the
is kind
Paul
of being
stuff.
good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, God. So I really love that, this chapter's so long, but it is still doing so much. Like, it's still so dense.
Yeah. There's a lot to discuss. So I guess the next thing that happens is Lucy calls Reagan, or as we better know her, Wink, telling her about this potential challenge approach they learned about last chapter that might be a useful last resort against the Hungry Choir.
Yeah, and sort of again in contrast to this massive grind of a morning that this part of the chapter is really drilling into us. This is actually like a nice exchange. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of trading friendly barbs. It's like I keep talking. I feel like Lucy is a bit of a natural hero and just a good person, and she's constantly being weighed down by the fact that other people are shit and no one's supporting her. And this is like one of those chances she gets to actually just be like her natural kind of good heroic self.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's nice to have moments where Lucy is able to feel empowered in this chapter without some of the other crazy stuff that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's like 2 lines after she hangs up on Reagan that the waifs show up.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I want to talk about this section actually because during this conversation between Lucy and Reagan, it feels like Walbo is showing off a bit. Where everyone read 1.x, read Gabe's interlude, and was like, "Oh, this is horrifying. This is the worst thing I've ever read," etc., etc. And through Lucy, Walbo here is just going, "Well, I could make it more horrifying. You guys will just wait and see what I can do," which is great.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, Walbo has spent years honing his ability to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's not surprising that he's so much better than us at it. It's just, it's so funny that it's like, it's also these 13-year-old girls in the story who are doing better than like, us at figuring some of this stuff out. Like, I think that was most apparent to me in the bonus bit at the end, where like Verona's
Mm.
considering all these angles on everything, and I was just like, "Huh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that." And it's like it gives me a bit of hope at like how good these three are at seeing some of this stuff when they take that step back.
Yeah. One of the things well, yeah, I guess I'll call it out now because it's related. When we get to the bit where Lucy is talking to Avery and Verona, last chapter we talked about how we basically talked about the exact things that Lucy talks about, where Marisica or Guilherme could basically use the transformation into Kel as a way to fuck with Avery by fucking with Pam, right? Something
Yeah.
that came up during our discussion. And it made me so happy that Lucy calls that out explicitly in this chapter, as well as Verona calls out a bunch of traps in her emails or potential traps. And it's like, yeah, these people, these three are being like, they are able to think about problems when they put their mind to it, potential problems and potential traps that could exist, which is reaffirming.
It's very reassuring.
Yeah.
Um, also, can we talk about like these waifs show up after Lucy has this call with Reagan because the Hungry Choir is a very moody ritual,
Yeah.
and I love how Wildbow still manages to communicate through a creature that can't talk, because like the main waif that shows up, or the one that's the center of the focus, is like another black girl who's roughly Lucy's age,
Yeah.
and like she injures herself and is like reacting like pained, and it's just like the Hungry Choir is so clearly communicating to Lucy like, don't bite the hand that feeds you,
Mm.
and it's doing that in such a powerful way without words. Like, it's just horrifying, and I was like, that was just a scene that was just etched into my mind like after reading it.
Mm. Yeah. It's gross, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love it. It's such a powerful way to communicate. And I mean, yeah, like there's actually some close calls here with the waifs. Like, Lucy is reaching for the ring when they all disappear, which is like, I don't think she had the hot lead on her.
Mm.
So where was she planning on getting the power for the ring? Like,
I think, yeah, like the ring drains you if you don't have a
yeah.
power source for it, right?
So we're lucky the Hungry Choir pissed off when it did, or she could have been in real trouble.
She could have been in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happens here is we're introduced to Paul, who will obviously play an important role in this chapter. But the first time I read this, and I think this is a fairly standard reaction, it is kind of confusing. Like, we found out that Lucy's father is dead. We kind of get that explicitly confirmed this chapter. And it's like, it's a situation where you kind of feel on the back foot trying to put together all the pieces for what father figures have been in Lucy's life. And Paul is introduced and you're kind of confused by it, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because it mirrors this like complete confusion that Lucy talks about later in this chapter, of like how confused she's been about this situation and how she hasn't really had a solid answer to it. And it in the same way that Lucy's kind of minor frustrations and struggles help get us in the vibe of understanding, at least, or empathizing to some level with the frustrations of the systematic racism that she's facing. This kind of gets us in the same headspace of being confused about Paul's role in her life and exactly what happened. It just kind of makes all these emotional beats land more because Wabo is making us as the audience feel the same things, or a version of the same things that Lucy feels.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but I completely agree. Like, there's all we really know about him at this chunk of the chapter is that like he was with her mum at some point, and he's just sort of left, and
Yeah.
you don't know why. And you're right, that makes it all the more crushing for us when it's like Lucy putting that together for us in the middle of her
Yeah.
I don't know, speech
Yeah.
meltdown. None of these words feel right. I don't know, during the events of the end of the
Yes.
chapter.
It's especially like that because we get beats of Heather like talking about Paul and indicating that she at least still has some measures of respect towards him, or some like, positive thoughts towards him, or at least had. And Jazz's reaction to that is so like shuts that down so completely in a way that just again makes it this obvious like
Yeah. You're like, what did he do?
Yeah, exactly. We should say Jasmine and Heather are so unsubtle about like as soon as Lucy leaves the room for 5 seconds, they're back to talking in full volume about the things that they don't want her to hear, and of course she hears about it. Like, not even subtle.
I mean, to be fair, Jazz actually does sort of say that. Like, Heather starts it, and Jazz is like, I don't want Lucy to know about this, and she's going to hear you. And Heather's like, oh. And it's like, I think Jazz is pretty tuned in. It's probably Heather, who I don't think has kids or anything. So she's maybe just not used to that sort of dynamic of having to watch what she's saying like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like, I mean, just again, there's such a healthy relationship between Lucy and Jasmine for the most part. Like, it's just that one thing where they're both trying to avoid putting their problems on the other. With Jasmine's, I think that's maybe a little bit more explainable because she is the mum. But it's like, it's so tough to watch them. Like, all the stuff that comes out with, like, when Lucy comes down and she's like, oh, you know, I made the phone call or whatever. Like, they just both talk to each other as adults, and everything is so nice. And it's just like, it's so close to being perfect. It's so painful.
Yeah. Yeah. I know this Paul stuff is a bit of a black box, but I don't know. Like, you know, they were together for 5 years. Lucy's 13 now. That was what, a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
So she would have been 6 to 11 while Paul was around. And that's young enough that I don't know how you would even have that conversation, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, this Paul stuff is such a great example of like, Lucy and Jasmine's, like, problem. Because, yeah, like, how is Jazz meant to explain that to Lucy? Like, I don't know that you could. But then at the same time, not telling her is its own problem, because now Lucy's just been stewing on this for years. So, like, it's a bit of an impossible situation that Jazz was in. And I mean, it's kind of the same with Lucy now with the practice, right? Like, she's having to close off from her mum on about a bunch of things because she can't tell her about the practice, and there's no way that's not going to sort of start to create a bit more of a fissure in their relationship. I have to imagine that's going to start to happen.
Yes, for sure.
And you can look at something like Class Ranker as an example of how, like, Lucy basically says to Aunt Heather in this car trip, she's like, people need to be communicating more and be honest. And Heather's just like, yeah, well, you know, I kind of know about Class Ranker. And Lucy gets pissed that is now, like, on her mum as well. She's like, oh no, my mum knows. But the result of Heather knowing about this from Lucy's mum is Heather's like, I'm going to, like, think on this and we can try and, like, talk it out tonight. And, like, I'm going to be here to support you. And it's like, this is exactly what Lucy was just saying. Like, more people need to be talking to each other like this so they can support each other. And
well, yeah, it even gets to the point where Lucy considers, and dismisses it rather quickly, but does consider filling in Heather about the practitioner world. And, like, that's such a big step, that the fact that Lucy gets close to reaching out for help on that, which is something that is kind of set up as, hey, you can't tell anybody, is big. And it shows that communication and this kind of stuff really does, like, make this stuff better, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a mystery story, and we're kind of exploring how secrets don't always help things. It seems kind of obvious through that lens, but you're right. Like, the whole sort of thing I see between Jasmine, Heather, and Lucy in this whole segment is kind of, the more open you are with each other, like, in general, the better things will be long term.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think that is kind of validated by Lucy getting upset at the other two, and then them taking concrete actions to improve that. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Let's get there.
Yeah. Yes, we get to the part where Lucy finds out, they reunite the trio, and Lucy finds out what Avery has done and is rightfully freaked out by that and upset at Avery and Verona for letting it happen, basically.
Yeah, and like, obviously, you know, we talked about, like, the start of this chapter is so, like, you know, oppressive. The ending is kind of a real, you know, mixed bag of emotions. It's very tragic overall, I think. This middle bit, though, like, let's just put this on repeat, because this is cathartic as fuck. Like, it just, good, watching Lucy go off at these two, I was just like, yes.
Yeah. It's great because I think every other chapter we've said something along the lines of, like, okay, this is the thing that will finally make it sink in how over their heads these three are, right?
Yeah.
And it just hasn't sunk in. Like, the stuff with John, the Hungry Quiet, the fairy stuff, it just hasn't been sinking in. But Lucy has been taking that message, obviously, as what we see here, and finally drills it into the others' heads. Like, no, this isn't fun and games. This is something that we have to be careful with, and that can't just be me.
Yeah. Like, I think last week we were giving the three of them a lot of crap for not taking the fairy stuff quite as serious as they should. And maybe that wasn't fair, because we should have been focusing just on Verona and Avery, maybe.
Yes, because Lucy
seems to be kind of on top of it.
Thank God.
yeah, it's like it's. I don't think it's a coincidence though that it's like the thing that finally got the other two to take it more seriously and have a bit of their wake up call is like one of the other two. Like, again, we're talking
Mm,
about how like that these three are just sort of starting to hold each other up and
yeah,
connect and be there for each other.
yeah,
And it's kind of nice to sort of when Lucy has this breakdown to see the other two start to step up.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, let's talk about Avery's reaction to this first, because I think
Sure.
it's good. It's a great, a model perfect reaction. She listens, she hears how she's fucked up. She does a little bit of like weaseling at the start, but then eventually kind of owns up to it and tries to do better, and then does try to do and like actively tries to do better. So good job, Avery. You're top. I love you.
Yeah, I mean Avery just remains like kind of hopelessly wholesome. Like she already
Mm,
knew that what she'd done wasn't great, and I think yeah, it's like she's sort of trying to be like, no, 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 it was okay because while Lucy just sort of defeats all those arguments, and Avery's like, okay,
pretty
no,
effectively.
you're
Yep.
right, and like she comes at it with this attitude of like I'm going to do better from here. Um,
Mm,
I I think it's a mixed success by the end of next chapter in that regard.
yep.
But we can get there. But the point is, she's trying, and that means something to me at least.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Verona's reaction. Verona's reaction is she kind of shuts down a bit and says she needs time to think and respond, which is fine, I guess, but it does feel a bit hollow in the moment. There's this part that I really liked where Lucy makes her confirm that she's not going to go to the Fae to make herself different to solve this problem, which is like the exact kind of crazy thing Verona would do to solve problems. And it feels like Verona is the kind of person that will look for, I think this is validated in the next chapter, will kind of look for a clean solution to this, where it isn't really something that has a clean solution. It's just, genuinely try to be better over time.
Yeah, I think Verona probably has a bit of a tendency to try and take the path of least resistance or the easy way
Mm,
out where she can, and
mm,
she's kind of saying, no, don't do that because there's a different sort of price to those paths usually.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I am cautiously optimistic about how Verona ends things here, based on what
Mm,
goes on next chapter. But it was hard not to see like parallels with her dad in the way she just kind of shuts down.
yep.
Um, like I guess she doesn't quite know how to communicate or process this stuff live, so she regresses into this pattern that her dad kind of has. And I mean, like Lucy just seems to have such good instincts for when to press and when not to, and Avery does a lot for that next chapter too, I think. And again, like
Mm,
I just. We started to talk about how these three were picked because they were already starting to become a bit other,
mm,
and I'm starting to get the sense, particularly from these two chapters, that it's actually these three who are saving each other from that in a lot of ways. Like
yeah,
I'm,
definitely.
I'm
I get
starting
that
to get
vibe too.
optimistic that it's like they're gonna actually be mostly fine, as,
Yeah.
as as fine as a wild bow protagonist can be.
Yeah.
Um, because they're going to keep each other above water. Like we're talking so much about support networks in this chapter in particular, and Lucy basically goes to these two and has her meltdown and says, I need a support network," and both of them actually step up and are trying to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what this chapter's saying. Like just people just need to kind of open up and ask for help, and hopefully they'll get it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we see it in this next chapter, but it's hard to know whether it's how long it's gonna stick. I guess it feels good though. It feels good next chapter. It feels positive.
Yeah, yes, I'm cautious optimism would be my term
Yeah,
for how I feel at the end of next chapter.
yeah, definitely. So next, Lucy goes over to Avery's house and gets a bit of a taste of how Avery lives, mostly by duking it out with Sheridan.
Yeah, I love how there's sort of this immediate tone shift as we go into like the third chunk of this chapter.
Yeah.
Like things there were all three of them together before, and it felt so resolved and balanced. And as I love
Mm,
now we're back to having two of them. I'm starting to get my tinfoil on because things get immediately tense and bad again now that it's two of them. And
mm.
it was two of them with the Avery thing, and things got resolved when they all come back together. Am I going crazy, or do you reckon this
Well,
is
no,
maybe a
that
thing?
does happen again next chapter when it's just Avery and Verona together as two of them, but then when three of them are together. But I don't know. I don't.
I was saying,
Maybe.
I think maybe there's an imbalance when it's just two of them around, and that can be what leads to things going so terribly when it's just two of them.
I don't know. I wouldn't call this going terribly. I think it's good that Sheridan
Oh,
finally has somebody
I'm
who
not so
stands
much
up to
talking about
her.
this dinner, but what happens when they go shopping.
Right. Yes. Well, yeah. Again, I wouldn't criticize too much of how Lucy acts then. Like, yes, there's some shitty parts to it, but I don't know. It feels justified.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that when we get there then, because
Yeah,
I don't know if I agree as wholeheartedly.
sure. For this part at least, I'm glad that Sheridan has someone to stand up to her, and get smacked down. It's great. Uh, yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I was even a little bit more torn on this one because, like, I don't know, Lucy just sort of comes in and brings a shitty attitude, and it's like, okay, well, she's kind of she's giving back what she's getting. I think, like,
Yeah, she's explicitly mirroring Sheridan, right? And
yeah,
she even says this to Sheridan, like, "No, I'm just mirroring you."
yeah.
And
It
so I'm kind
reminds
of
me
like,
of I
"Yeah,
can't remember
fair
when we
enough."
talked about this. I can't remember if it was in Deep Impact or Media MD, but there was that idea I went to a Catholic school when I was young, and they always used to do that thing of treat others as you wish to be treated.
Mm,
And when I was like 5 years old, for whatever reason, my wires got crossed. And what I started doing was using that reactively. And so
mm,
how people treated me is how I would treat them. And
mm.
like you can kind of see Lucy doing that. Like when somebody is a shit to her, she would just immediately sort of go, well, that is how you have decided to be treated. And I'm just going to like shit on you right back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of okay with it. Like, I think it's the same thing as when she does the hair touch to Kerry, right? It's a great way of just being
Yeah.
like, "Hey, this is how you are acting. Like, I'm just doing what you're doing, and that's a lens for you to reflect on how you're acting." And I think it's great.
If it works like that, like the Carey one, I think that's great and it works like that. With the Sheridan one, I can't just help but feel that it
It
is
just escalates it.
escalating
Yeah.
things and making it work. Like she kind of just, as she straight up says, "Oh, I'm being a bad influence on Avery," and it is kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like, yeah, suck eggs,
Yeah.
Sheridan, when she got the
Yeah.
ice poured down her shirt. But at the same time, it's like this, like long term, this is just gonna get Avery in trouble. Like
Well,
I don't know.
the counter to that is the very next interaction we see between Avery and Sheridan
Yeah,
is the
it's
most
the
positive
best
one
one.
they've ever
Yeah.
had. So there's an argument to be made that this actually does work,
Yeah,
right?
especially because one of Sheridan's things is just she's trying to get Avery to stand up for herself more, which,
Yeah,
throwing ice water at you counts, I reckon.
I think it
Yeah,
counts. Yeah,
I
totally.
don't know. I don't like sort of mixed feelings about how aggressive Lucy comes into this not confrontation. Well, yeah, it is. Anything with the Sheridan's a bit of a confrontation,
It's a
maybe.
confrontation. Yeah, totally.
But I also love, and we see this a lot more next chapter as well. There's each Kenneteer has such a different home life, and
Mm,
something we're really starting to explore now is getting them to see each other's, or it's mostly like
mm,
Avery's, because obviously Verona and Lucy were fairly familiar with each other's situations already. But like having them all experience these different families through each other's eyes now is even more fun than seeing it from their own. Like
mm.
Avery's family is just even more overwhelming to Lucy. Like there's just so much going on. Like you can't help but understand why she's just had to kind of. I mean, I think she says it just raises her heartbeat being there. Like it's just stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. They all just have yeah, I mean Lucy's less so. Lucy's is problematic for other reasons, I think, but Avery and Verona, it their home life is just a drain. And we kind of talked about this for Verona as being one of the things that's pushing her into practicing more deeply. And for Avery, it doesn't necessarily seem to be pushing her into practicing as much as it is pushing her into her friendship with Lucy and Verona, which I think is good. Um,
Yeah, what kind of pushes her into obscurity a bit, which is how she ended up where she was last year.
Yes, but also the reaction that she has to that is reaching out to Verona and Lucy, which I think is a much
Right.
healthier thing than just kind of fading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas like Lucy's life is just one that like I think on the surface seems pretty awesome. And so when you really start to pick at it, you start to see
Yeah.
this problem Lucy and her mum are in of both trying to support the other and not getting enough support themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a common thread for all of our Kenneteers is just not having enough of a support network, especially not one outside of the rest of the Kenneteers.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so next up, Lucy and Avery run off to the store to pick up some treats for the family. And this is where they bump into Paul, and Lucy, as she puts it, cuts loose.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is the big part of the chapter. I mean, I don't even think I have words to sort of describe this section. Like, just go read it again if you've forgotten how insane like it is. It's just it's so emotional.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And it is this opportunity for Lucy to confront this figure that is basically the representation of all the unsaid racism in her life, right? Like, she sees Paul as a kind of representation of all the times when I've never quite been able to put my finger on, is it racism, or is there a reason that people just won't tell me? You know, you are the one representation of that that's bigger than any others. And he can't give her an explanation. Basically, all he does is confirm, yes, it's, you know, I left your family because you're black. Basically, he doesn't deny. He as good as confirms it, right?
Yeah, by not denying it, I saw it as a confirmation. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not even a closure for Lucy, right? It just is this kind of impotent frustration where there's nothing that she can do. It's just an acceptance of, yes, I and other people are going to treat you shitty in ways you can't really confront because of something you have no control over. And it's just shit. And this scene is heartbreaking for it. Like, Lucy confronting that idea.
Yeah, exactly. Like as you sort of said, she's using what is the biggest example of this in her life to kind of focus all of, like, you know, her very justified frustration and anger about it into this sort of one confrontation. And then obviously, you know, sort of it amounts to laying a curse on him to, you know, I guess make him more of a coward, but also like introduce a whole thing with his mum, which was the bit that I was kind of like, I think that's the bit that really I think is making it clear that this is not something that is meant to be celebrated.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, you know, the extra evidence for that is like, then it's the goblins who show up, and I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. And it's like, okay, I think didn't misdescribe the goblins as like manifestations of all gross impulses or something?
Yes, I think the specific curse that she lays on Paul is pretty gross, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a bit torn on it because of, one, the fact that she explicitly kind of sets it up as, hey, if you don't start acting better, this is what I lay at your feet, you know? And so it kind of does give him a bit of an out of just, if you're a better person, then this curse won't affect you, more or less.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make it okay, but at least kind of makes it karmically something that is put on his head by himself rather than as much on her.
Yeah, but like, you know, if we're talking like about justice and consequences in this story, like
this is like punitive justice, not rehabilitative justice.
Exactly.
At the very least.
Like my whole thing is, I sort of looked at this and I was like, can she not curse Paul to just be better? Or like, is that like if she could change things so that he's in love with his mum?
Like,
why can't she just make him braver? Not necessarily to get him back. I mean, that's a whole separate thing, and that's like her call. Like, whatever. Like, I'm not saying that she needs to curse him to be better so he can get back with Jasmine, but like, there's that sort of sense of, yeah, like, is it not possible to just make him better? Like, wouldn't that be hopefully a better way of fixing things?
I think on paper, yes, but like, I don't think it's Lucy's. I don't put the onus of responsibility onto Lucy for that, right? Like, she is a 13-year-old girl who has this outlet for actually finally being able to have some influence over this thing that has just been this black box of toxicity in her life, right?
Yeah.
And she, you know, in a perfect world, would she use that to instead make things better by solving racism one dickhead at a time? Sure, but like, that's not on her, right? And I get that's true. It does kind of make a situation a little bit messier, but I don't know. Like, it improves her mental health. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with the maybe the cowardice part. I think
that's fair.
Giving him the Oedipal complex bit is sort of the bit that
makes
just
it a bit slimy. It doesn't
muddies it. But like, yeah, I think as you said, I think this is just kind of another one. It's like the whole situation Jazz was in with telling Lucy about this. Like, there probably isn't just a like correct or best solution. Like everything has pros and cons and like various levels of impossibility. It's like it's just I don't know. Like I on the one hand it's kind of like suck shit Paul, but on the other hand I'm like is this too far?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't
you're
know.
right. Maybe it is too far. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, I'm switching back and forth. I'm flip flopping on different parts of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is just, at the very least, we can agree it's a big complex mess.
Yes, yeah.
The other thing that sorry, yeah.
Oh, and just like because it's obviously I think a big thing, like a big part of it is like Lucy puts her blood into this. Like it's a very violent act that she's doing here, which again, like I think like the imagery of violence has been tied to Lucy ever since she had that knife as her awakening. I don't know what was it, personal
Tool,
item.
item.
And like so that's just tying her to the Carmine Beast. To me, like in my head, in that whole domain, and it's just like the Carmine Beast wasn't someone who was necessarily fair. Like I think that was explicitly called out. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's just I mean, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. There's a bit of a hint as to where it's going next chapter, actually.
Yeah. I do kind of want to touch on this fact that the thing that was the most interesting to me is after this happens, Lucy has this run-in with the goblins who basically are like, good stuff, good shit, top shit, right? And it put this thought into my head of like, I feel like we're seeing, we heard from the Fae that these three were specifically chosen because they do have a propensity to turn into others. And we're seeing them kind of fall more into patterns that align with specifically the others that we have around town, right? Like Lucy, I think, is becoming more and more goblin-y. I think there's also parts we've talked about whether Avery is going to turn into like Miss if she gets lost, or Avery doing some Fae trickery, or Verona possibly wanting to turn into an other like Miss, or Verona possibly becoming like tricky like a fairy. Like there's these bits where it feels like they're starting to slide more and more into behaviors that you could conceivably be seen carried out by the others in town.
Yeah, like if you had to ask me right now, which of the types of other each Kenneteer is turning into, like I would probably maybe put Verona as fairy, Avery heading in some direction similar to Alpi, and then Lucy, something that would have been in like the Carmine Beast's crew.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be Goblin. It could even just be like John, right? Or like I think Guillermet mentioned that the Carmine Beast has like a sort of like bunch of employees. That doesn't feel like the right word, but like like violence affiliated others under them. And like Lucy might be heading in the direction where she could have become one of them or something, or totally. Like John. I mean, there's definitely the potential for all that. But as I said, I'm starting to. I feel like these two chapters have shown us so concretely that these three are starting to hold each other up that I'm cautiously optimistic that they're going to be okay in the end. Yeah. I don't think we can put enough on it yet, but it does feel like we're riding the line of which way are these three going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's kind of the end of 2.4. So shall we move on to 2.5, where we jump into Avery's head and we start out with soccer training. Avery's at soccer practice with Audrey and Aubrey.
I hate that I can totally believe a parent would name twins Audrey and Aubrey.
Now, okay, I got to talk about this because obviously that's confusing, right? Obviously, like reading the chapter, there are moments where I was like, wait, which one's which and who's speaking now? And like the fact that it's Audrey and Aubrey, and also those names are so similar to Avery, like they're basically three characters in the scene that have the exact same name. And it's confusing. And there's no way that Wildbow doesn't know that is confusing and didn't see that, right? And so my reaction to that is this is intentional. And therefore the question becomes, why did he do it like this, right? Is it just because it's funny to have that scene? Maybe. But I'm kind of reading into it more, and I'm kind of feeling like we touched on last chapter, and Lucy talked about last chapter how Avery is becoming entangled with the Fae. I don't know. I don't think Audrey and Aubrey are specifically Guillermet and Marissa in disguise, although maybe. But I think that Avery being entangled with the Fae makes it like her chapters kind of have this influence, this Fae influence, and are now slightly more complicated webs. This is like a beat of her chapters becoming slightly more convoluted because that's just the way that Fae like leave you after you're entangled with them. That's what I think is going on here, and I think we're going to see more of this if Avery becomes more entangled with the Fae, and we will see.
I mean, yeah, I actually did try to come up with my own theory about why Wildbow would have included twins with names like this, and I
Yeah.
didn't come up with anything better. So I can't knock your theory.
Thanks.
In as far as I can say, yeah, like I like this idea that, you know, now that Fairy have been involved, you just sort of have to get paranoid about everything.
Yeah, it's the best part.
But yeah, I mean, to sort of touch on what happened in 2.4 again as well, we do see Avery try to help Lucy a bit here, like she says to Miss Hardy. You know, she kind of brings up how Mr. Bate is like a bit of an ass to Lucy. And like this is where Aubrey come into it a bit, because like they really take that stance of, you know, unless there's like proof and he's explicitly broken the rules, like lay off, because he's a good coach, and so you know we should look past that other stuff because we need him to be the good coach. And it's just like I hate that thinking. Like, stop enabling the shitty parts of him to you know, leave him in a position of power because of the other good stuff he can do. Like, that doesn't mean he shouldn't be called out for the bad sides of him.
Totally. I think it is just I can't remember which one it is. Audrey, whatever. That doesn't have this lived experience of feeling the, you know, the systematic oppression that Lucy has been at the hands of. Now that Avery does have insight into that, she can kind of see that it's a bit more insidious.
Yeah, exactly. And she's trying to stand up for Lucy, and they're kind of fighting against this. But I was just like, I'm also so proud of Avery, because like, she's not someone who steps up. That's not quite her thing, especially in this sort of way. Like, there's actually a bit of a metaphor going on, because something Mr. Bader is sort of screaming at the kids as they're doing this goal drill is like, I think it's Melissa who is like, you don't freeze. Like, if you freeze, nothing happens. Whereas if you make a mistake, you can learn from it. And that's kind of the thing Avery's doing here, where she's like, she just knows now that she needs to do something to help Lucy.
Yeah.
And so she's going to do that. I mean, there's other stuff tied in. Like, I think this soccer, like, Wildbow pulls so much out of it. Like, the way Avery doesn't shoot her goals, she just sort of dribbles them in, because it's like, you know, she's good at this stuff that's close to her. She has that tight circle, and she just dribbles her soccer ball in. She's not out there taking big shots and being extroverted. It's so perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we have this point where the soccer practice wraps up, and we have this car scene where the Kelly family basically have a nightmare of an experience in this car. Things get very out of hand, and Avery and Sheridan run off together.
Yeah, actually, as they get to the car, there's that really interesting bit with Melissa. Like, I don't know why I'm focusing on this so much, because it's like literally like 10 lines of the chapter, and it's a long chapter. But like, Melissa kind of comes over and she's like, "Oh, hey, you should do cross country," and Avery's like, "No, I don't want to. I don't like running without a point." Blah blah. Yeah. And then Avery sort of has
weird response.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that, but it's just like, Avery has this bit after it where she's like, "I don't get Melissa. Like, she's, you know, she's so strange." And it's like, I think 90% of what we've seen of Melissa in this story has just been Melissa trying to get people to do things that she thinks they'd be good at or that they'd enjoy.
Yeah,
like,
she's always welcoming trait.
Yeah, like, she's always like, "Hey, Verona, you'd be good at dancing," and maybe she took that one too far, because it's turned into, like, you know, harassing Verona kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, you know, I think the other thing was during the basketball stuff. Melissa was like to Avery, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at basketball considering it's not your thing. Maybe you should do it more."
Yeah,
and it's just, I don't know, like, everyone keeps sort of shitting on Melissa, and I just keep sitting here thinking, I don't know, she actually just seems to kind of be trying to matchmake people with hobbies that they'll enjoy. Like, that kind of seems like a cool thing to do. I don't know. Is there going to be some big reveal about Melissa? Because she just keeps coming up as being a nice person, and everyone's just kind of like she was like second last in class ranker or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's a bit too pushy with some of her welcoming, but you're right. Yeah. I don't see why everyone seems to dislike her so much.
It keeps coming. Every time she comes up, people are like, "Oh, Melissa's so weird," and I'm like, "What?"
Maybe she's you know,
she just seems nice.
Maybe she's here we go. Okay. You know the other character that hasn't really done anything too terrible, but everyone
She's
just
not
seems to kind of
Charles.
hate them. Yeah, here we go. She's forsworn, at least. So she was a practitioner, but was forsworn for some reason, and now because of her forsworn, everyone just seems to hate her,
Or is
even though
she
they can't quite
Charles's?
put their finger on why.
Is she Charles's daughter? Is that the big reveal?
That must be it, and everyone hates her just because of Charles' radiation.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let's get back to this exhausting car scene because every time we
Yeah.
have a scene with Avery's family, it's such a chaotic mess. Like, and here's what I would do if I was Avery's parents: 2 kids per scene. Okay, only 2 of the kids at a time can be in a room or a car or any like scene in air quotes at a time. No more than 2 kids because otherwise it just becomes a nightmare immediately.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I just was like so unsurprised when Sheridan and Avery were both like, "Yeah, I'm out."
Yeah.
And like yeah, you could really start to see how Avery ended up in the position she was in where she was flying so under the radar because like in this family, you just have to fight so hard for your slice of attention because that's what all the other kids are doing. And like if Avery just wasn't causing trouble, you can see how, as Sheridan put it, like her parents would just forget she exists. I mean, Sheridan and Avery kind of use that to their advantage in this car scene because they're both sort of like, yeah, we're going, and the dad's like, oh no, you can't, and they're like, yeah, but we're gonna, and then Kerry or Declan like will start doing something, and he just has to get distracted by them. He's like,
Yes.
oh, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Can't
like
deal with everything at once. That's why I
Yeah,
said
exactly.
2 kids per scene. That should be the rule.
yeah, I mean that's what we see here is like Sheridan and Avery using that thing to their advantage rather than having it hurt both of them. Actually, it turns out like it has in the past.
Yeah, yeah. And then we get this brief scene of Sheridan and Avery actually connecting, and I'm very offended that Wildbow would humanize Sheridan because I want to continue hating her forever. But no, they have a nice sisterhood moment. Sheridan is still a bit bitchy towards Avery, but it felt very real, right? It felt very realistic.
Yeah, I mean, like this is just sort of one of the ultimate proofs that Wildbow can write family well. I thought this scene was perfect. I definitely had this experience growing up where like you will constantly be at each other's throats, like you and your siblings, sort of in the house, and then when it's just the 2 of you for some reason, you actually will just have like this deep and meaningful, like nice conversation. Then you go back home and you'll immediately start tearing into each other like nothing happened. It's like this was sort of peak sibling relationship or at least in my experience. I find Sheridan so much more fascinating now because she's kind of resembling this alternate path Avery could have gone down with like the whole slipping through the right, because Sheridan basically says, oh, this was happening to me, and her solution was to just kind of make the space for herself by being like Karening her way into getting attention.
Yes,
it's almost like Lucy-esque path. Like Lucy talks a lot about how she kind of just had to stop taking people's shit and do all this sort of defensive dressing and stuff. And it's a little bit similar. Like Sheridan sort of looked at what was happening and was just like, was taught to fight for her slice of it, basically.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a positive influence on Avery. Like if Avery now hearing this will take that step a bit more. I don't know. Is that even a good thing? Who knows?
Yeah, well, because it's a mixed bag for Sheridan, because she sort of also has this bit where she's like, I have like no friends, like boyfriend or anything. She's basically just in a holding pattern. She's just pushing through the grind until she can leave the town.
Yeah, until she can basically restart her life in another place.
Yeah, which is like obviously like good luck with that. I mean, it works for some people, it doesn't for others, but also it echoed to me like Avery's whole relationship situation where, she kind of needs to start switching out of the town, except Avery and Lucy and Verona can't fully leave the town forever, right? Like that was something we sort of established during the awakening ritual. They're tied to the town to some degree for the rest of their lives.
Yes. So that's not an option for Avery.
Yeah, not really. Not in the same way.
Yeah. So Avery heads off to Verona's house to chill out and finally gets to see just how much of a shitbag Verona's dad is.
This might be one of the scariest locations we've seen in this story that includes genuine monsters. Like this house is so unsettling from Avery's perspective. this was fantastic. Like we just spent 2 chapters in like a fairy cave that, made of nightmares, and we're not too far out from like the fucking Hungry Choir's horror universe. And I was still like, there's something existentially creepier about Verona's house than any of those situations.
Yes, I think the thing that really sells it is the chairs and table
Yes.
being like waxed in place, which is so insane. It's so crazy that the fact that they just haven't moved half of the chairs around their dining table or their dining table in months, and therefore as they wax the floors, they just wax around these chairs. Like,
And it's been building up. It's
crazy.
it's such good horror material. Like I was just like, oh, it's so uncanny valley creepy, this whole sort of house. And it really sold to me this idea of like Verona wanting to become an other, because you sort of look at this house from Avery's perspective and you're like, I think the humanity has already left this house like a while ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a home that humans are living in anymore anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so while they're here, Avery and Verona kind of have a conversation about what they're going to do in response to Lucy and how they should improve. And it's great. I love it. Verona, you're back in my good books. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, Verona does microwave her fries, which...
Yeah, that is horrifying.
Yeah, that's actually an unforgivable
horror stories, yeah.
Thing that she's just done there. I mean, in fact, you know what? She's already become an other, because that's the most monstrous thing we've seen in this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is definitely that sort of moment where you start to get hope in Verona. Like this conversation with Avery, you start thinking like Verona has actually done what Lucy was hoping. She has been thinking on this, and she's going to try and be there for Lucy a bit more. And I love how Verona kind of starts to do this by quizzing Avery a bit, and I think she's trying to step up for Avery as well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just the theme for these three between these 2 chapters, like as a trio, was just so like they're gonna be there for each other, and I kind of like it's so heartwarming. Like all the horrible bits in between aside. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, there's just such a contrast between Avery's home situation and Verona's.
Oh, yeah. Verona's dad is the worst. He's so annoying.
Yeah, but just like, talking about how Lucy saw Avery's home and was like overwhelmed. Like, yeah. I think part of the horror of Verona's house from Avery's perspective is like how different it is. Like it's so far the other way. It's like oppressively silent. There's all the stuff with the tables. Like it's just, I'm loving having these three see the others' living perspectives and use that to start to understand them and grow closer to them. Like I think Avery comes out with so much more of an understanding of Verona from this experience than she had going in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, we keep hitting this beat, but it is crazy the home lives that these three have and how much it pushes them into these horrifying situations.
Yeah.
Like Verona's dad is the worst, and basically it just seems to be projecting all of his hatred and fear of Verona's mother onto Verona, which is terrifying, terrible.
Oh yeah, he needs so much help so desperately. Like the fact that he can't even pull himself together now that Avery's here is really just a testament to how like far gone he is. Yeah. Like he's like, oh, Verona, go get Avery and bring her in here. And like he's just like lying in bed in a singlet or something, and it's just like like he can't pull himself together to meet Verona's new friend. Like he's just he needs help.
Yeah. But the good thing about this is we kind of have seen Lucy see Avery's house and Avery seen Verona's house now. Avery's also obviously seen Lucy's house, and we're kind of... Actually, has Verona seen Avery's house yet? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Anyway, we're getting this point where all three of them feel like they're developing stronger empathy for the others, and it feels like they're really growing into being good, strong support networks for each other, which is really nice and positive.
Yeah. And like the interactions we see in this chapter, like Avery is sort of stepping up in her own way, and she's really good at getting stuff out of Verona, and that really culminates at the end of the chapter with Alpi and Verona's dad that we'll get to. Yeah. But like it's nice not just seeing this through having them visit each other and get a bit closer, but like you actually see Avery help Verona in this chapter, which is like such a perfect way to deliver on what her and Lucy were talking about last chapter that we didn't quite get into, where like Lucy's sort of like, I can't tell you how to help me, you just need to figure it out. And I think part of what Avery starts to do is take care of Verona, which is, you know, something that Lucy's going to have to hopefully do less of if Avery is also pulling some of that weight.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you, like, something that's starting to crop up quite repeatedly in terms of Verona is this like organized within disorganized motif. Like Verona talked about it a lot two chapters ago, or you know, in last week, where she started talking about like English versus French gardens and how she'd organize a garden.
Yeah.
And then Avery comes into her room and there's this like, and again brings up like a very similar idea of, oh, there's an organized layer within the general clutter and disorganization. And Verona even has her spell book where, or, you know, she has like a messy notebook and then she kind of builds a smaller organized one within it, which I think is like the same sort of thing. And I'm noticing this pattern, but I don't know what to do with it yet.
Yeah, so to clarify the pattern, because I didn't really notice it, but now you've pointed it out, I do see this. It's, I guess organized within disorganized, right?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the way that Verona's entire life is kind of messy, her human life, I guess. And she's kind of found this aspect of something that she's good at and has control over, at least to some extent, within the practice. Kind of gives me this vibe of like multiple parts of Verona's life she doesn't feel like she has control in, or she feels powerless about, but she does have these places where she's seeking to build control. I don't know if there's anything, like any grand statements to make about it beyond the fact that it's probably good for her to have some parts that she feels competent and capable at, and then build out from there to help influence her life in a positive direction. But I don't know if there's any like...
No, I like that. It's like Verona, maybe it's sort of symbolizing this way she can kind of just focus on parts of her life and ignore the rest.
Yeah.
Like she's, she's sort of trying to put her dad in the bucket of, oh, I don't care about that and it doesn't matter. And she doesn't care what most people think of her from the looks of it. But like when she hurts Lucy, it's like, oh shit, like, Lucy is in the organized like column that she actually cares about. She's going to do something about that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if there's any bold tinfoil predictions to make about it yet, but something to keep an eye on, I suppose.
Come back next week. I'm sure Ruben will have thought of something.
So next, Verona and Avery head to meet up with Lucy, and they get the final gifts from the Fae.
Yep. I mean, I suppose you got to rip this Band-Aid off at some point.
Yep. There's a lovely reconcile between Verona and Lucy, which I really loved. Verona is clearly putting in effort to be better to her friend. And it, like, I genuinely teared up at the group hug thing. Like, it was so good. I'm so invested.
Yeah, I mean, the group hug bit was especially where it just became, like, amazing to me, because it was like Verona brings up this whole idea of like, hugging as a thing they used to do and sort of should start doing again. And they start doing it, and then it's like, oh, but also we're going to include Avery now. And it's that sense, like, I think, introducing Avery into these three might have been the biggest mistake the Kenner others made if their goal really was to make these girls other. Yeah. Because I think I'm just so optimistic they're bringing each other up. I feel like I've said that like 10 times this episode. But
unless they're going to turn into like some kind of 3-in-1 totem pole other, where the fact that they're so close and disconnected from the rest of the world is the strength.
Some sort of Cerberus, but with the heads of
like a hydra.
A deer,
yeah, totally.
A cat, and a fox.
Oh, what if they turn into a chimera that's like a deer fox cat hybrid? Yeah. Anyway,
well, they're called the Keneteers, right? So it's like, they're gonna that's their Captain Planet thing when they put
when they
their
go
powers
they
combined
Voltron together. Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit more of a Megazord. Anyway.
So I do think it's funny that Verona's like trying to restart this hugging thing, which I just felt like is exactly what I thought Verona would do, in terms of it's like trying to find a clean solution when there isn't really one. I mean, it's very sweet and it is nice, but it's, you can't just put in place this one rule, Verona, and expect that to solve everything.
It is a bit of a practitioner-y way to try and fix it, because what she's doing is saying, this is a pattern that, like, symbolized our friendship, so we'll just keep doing that pattern, and like that, and hopefully then the friendship will become stronger, like, patterns that are being reinforced. Which, I mean, she's probably not wrong, Like, I mean, hugs are just a very like emotional and connecting thing, like symbolically. So like I actually am kind of on Verona's side. I think it's a very practitioner-y but probably effective way to do what she wants to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So then they get the gifts from the Fae, but they get them to write them down, which is great. Like it's hilarious, but it's also a great way of like expressing more caution at this because it means that the Fae can't, at least not as directly, fuck with them.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, we're going to open up these letters and it's going to be a fucking riddle or something, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, you're right. It's sort of taking that one step where now they can take this stuff away and think on it before doing it, as opposed to
Yes.
just, Verona's a mink now.
Yeah, exactly. You're not trapped in the immediacy of a situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm not optimistic that this will completely disentangle them from Fae traps, but it's like a start, right?
Yeah, definitely. A good start, I think.
Yeah. There's also a bit that comes up here where we start to talk about like Paul. Well, like Lucy sort of mentions what's happening, and Alpi comes in at this point as well. Because it seems like Lucy's curse may not necessarily stick. Alpi brings up that Lucy's actually a bit depowered because she's maybe told some white lies or something. Which, like, you know, I think we can go back. Like, there was a bit where she said she was going to push a waif down a stair and she didn't. Like, there's all sorts of little things, but it's like that, actually the fact that her mum is planning to reach out to Paul and the fact that Lucy wasn't at 100% power is sort of like, oh, this may not stick. And Lucy seems actually kind of a bit relieved about that.
Yeah, I think she's feeling a bit guilty, or that she went a bit too far with it.
Yeah, which, like, you know, I think is for the best, because I think we sort of had that debate about, like, you know, what is her job and stuff with all the punishments, but like the last thing she needs to have is also guilt for what she did to that guy. Like, so if she was at all feeling guilty for what she did, like, then I hope for hell it gets reversed, or not fully reversed. I mean, that's the other thing. Alpi introduces that these curses can like bounce back at you. If things go the wrong way, which is just like, we've given so much shit to the fairy for not being trustworthy, but the goblins are something you shouldn't trust for their own complete reasons, because they just didn't think to mention this extra step. Like, they're so, you can't depend on the goblins to actually give you the whole truth, because they just won't think to, from the sounds of it.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think any of the Kennet others you should fully trust, except Alpi, who's great.
No, well, yeah, Alpi's 100% on the level. But yeah, the goblins, it's interesting because I don't think they're necessarily trying to trick them. They're just kind of stupid, and they'll not think that a detail matters.
Yeah, exactly. They don't consider everything holistically, I guess.
Yeah.
So the trio accompany Alpi on her rounds, with the first stop being Verona's dad. So they head back to Verona's house to give a nightmare to her dad.
So, okay, here's something I want to ask at this point. Am I the only one who thinks there may be the Kennetiers are maybe pushing back an unfair amount on Alpi's job? We saw it last chapter as well, 2.3, and we see it a lot here. They're just constantly sort of questioning and calling Alpi what she does is really evil and monstrous. And I mean, I guess she's the only other that we know of that's, like, you know, directly interacting with, like, you know, innocent people.
I feel
innocent.
I feel like that's only because she's the most transparent. Like,
yeah,
I think the Fae are out there fucking with random people.
That's the thing. Like, the Fae and the goblins, if they are at all interacting with regular people, that's undoubtedly 100 times worse than what Alpi's doing, right?
Yes, I agree.
So I don't know. It's just it's weird to me how much the three Kennetiers are sort of looking at what Alpi's doing. They're like, this is wrong, and I'm kind of like, well,
it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's maybe not great at times, but like, we do start to get into a little debate here about how much this is helping.
Is it a service?
As we sort of do Verona's dad.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's because, apart from the Hungry Choir, Alpi's the only one who's actually talked about the way she interacts with other people, right?
Actually, that's a good point. I forgot about the Hungry Choir. That one's, like, objectively 1,000 times
worse than
but
Alpi,
right?
they clearly are moving actively against the Hungry Choir, right?
Fair, fair.
There's this moment. Okay, can we just talk about how great Alpi is? I love Alpi so much, and not just not in the least because she has an awesome accent, and she just speaks with this Scottish accent. And there's this one time that she says, "Ye shut your weesht, Alpina hist," which I don't know what, like Wheesht. It's like wished, wish. I have no idea, but I love
it's
it.
wished. I actually googled it, and it's like a Scottish sort of slang for like
For mouth.
silence.
Yeah,
So she's
sure.
basically telling them to shut up and be silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love how Alpi's accent is sort of written phonetically.
It's so
Um,
good.
I used to read Redwall a lot growing up, and
Yeah.
it did the same sort of thing, and it's just
Yeah.
such a fun like way to make a character stand out.
Yeah. I love Alpi, and I'm that makes me so sad because if I love her, she's probably going to be involved with the Carmine Beast's death in some way and be some level guilty. Well, and they haven't actually really interviewed Alpi yet properly either, so I'm kind of a bit nervous about it. But I love
Well, I
her,
think
and I'm sure she'll be fine.
that's what they were attempting to do in this
Yes,
section,
and it
I
does
think,
get
before
derailed.
things go off the rails.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I can't help but trust Alpi as well. I'm the same. I'm like, I just can't picture her being the baddie,
She's
which
too
probably means she is. But
genuine.
right now, I just
Yeah.
can't make it come together in my head.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about this scene where Verona basically plays chicken with herself about Alpi giving a nightmare to her dad. She kind of convinces herself that this is something that should be fine because it's actually to improve her dad. But I actually feel like she internally is kind of wants him to suffer just to be a bit vindicated, right?
Yeah.
And eventually is forced to kind of admit, no, I don't want him to be hurt because I do actually care about my dad. And it's interesting. It's like she basically does play chicken with herself, and I feel like it's possibly not enough by itself to force this, but possibly a beat that may be repeated later that forces Verona to actually start thinking about some of the complicated feelings with her dad and start some change in some direction. I don't know which way, but
Yeah, because as we sort of touched on, I don't think it's Verona's responsibility
no.
to fix her dad.
Yes, 100%.
But also that's the situation we're in, and her current strategies are not helping either of them.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, yes, it's disappointing that he's not the one stepping up, but also, well, yeah, sometimes that's just the way the cards fall, I guess. I mean, this is a very humanizing moment for Verona. I love how it's Avery that kind of drags it out of her. Like the whole way over, Verona's like, "Oh, I don't care," and she's sort of doing that thing where she's, we saw in her head, she's trying to make herself not care.
Yes.
But she does, and Avery really challenges that directly, and that's sort of, I think, finally what helps Verona just break.
Yeah, it's
And
good.
it's so heart wrenching that Verona sees this as
She sees it as weakness.
Yeah.
She says that she's wimped out, which is, and of course Avery's like, no, that's not wimping out.
I think Lucy actually, but like, yeah, I think
yeah.
everyone else in the room was probably just like, this isn't wimping out. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean that's sort of this whole, this punitive versus restorative justice stuff that we start to get into with Alpi here, like, because that's sort of what they start to discuss, whether what she's doing fits those two categories. Like, is this actually something that's going to help her dad, or this other old codger guy who beat his wife? Like, is this going to help them actually get better, or is it just sort of tormenting them and then they're going to wake up and just still be shit?
yeah.
And with Verona's dad, I feel very strongly about which direction it was going to push him in, which is just make him wallow more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, it's tough because, like, I think Alpi's cosmological innate justice is so interesting, because it's one of those things where I feel like if you spin it the right way, you're incepting people to try and be better, and I could kind of get behind that to some degree.
Yeah.
But if it's just like beating someone while they're down, like, that's where Verona comes in, where she's like, I don't know if this would actually help him.
Yeah.
It's so tricky.
Yeah, I think that the read on it is somewhere between those two, points, right? And it could be like, hey, great opportunity to force people to reflect and improve, or it could be, hey, I'm just going to pile shit on people and make them act worse because they feel worse more consistently. I don't know. You're right. It's grey.
Yeah, I think it depends how it's used and when it's used, and I do think Verona makes the right call here, because she gets Alpi to stop on her dad, and sort of like, well, yeah, because like we know Verona's dad. This is not going to improve him. This is going to just hurt him more. And like there's this moment where I think with these other two around her, Verona is sort of like, I need, like, this isn't helping, and that's the sort of the first step towards maybe trying to help him to some degree, which would just be like, again, probably not her job in an ideal world, but we are where we are, and her helping him would be like a good thing to see, because long term it would be great for her as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Also, to jump back a bit, we kind of skipped over, like, the fairy do actually give the girls some more gifts, and I just wanted to talk about what those gifts are.
Yeah, sure.
Especially before we go into to the extra material. Because Lucy gets this glamour that's going to let her turn into moonlight or smoke or flame. Like, what?
Yeah, wild.
Like, there's a huge difference between becoming a mink, becoming like, you know, a different person, and becoming fucking
Moonlight.
Like, okay, moonlight is the one that really just blows my mind out. Like, smoke and flame, I can kind of get it. How do you become moonlight? Is that invisibility? Is that a fancy term for invisibility?
No, you just turn into moonlight. Come on, Elliot. It's pretty straightforward.
What's that mean?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Also, what's a Carmine Beast imagery there? I'm just going to keep hitting that drum with Lucy. Like, I should probably stop calling it Carmine Beast imagery and just call it, like, I don't know, otherverse, like, violence imagery. But, you know, there's all this stuff with blood and knives and moonlight associated with that whole domain in this story.
Yeah, definitely. I have a prediction to pull out about that later. So, talk about that a bit.
Yeah, and then obviously, like, Guillaume gives his first gift to Avery. Mm-hmm. And my understanding on what he says is that it's glamour that will give her self-confidence.
Oh, God knows.
Like, that's my understanding based on what he says, but, you know, he's a fairy, so I don't know if I understood what he said. I mean, I kind of hope that's what it is, because that's like, I mean, that's going to be a hilarious disaster if it gets used.
Yeah, God knows what even it would do. Presumably would tie into some of the problematic stuff that happened last time she was under glamour.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just picturing, like, you know, that bit in Spider-Man 3 where...
Oh, yeah. She'd turn into super confident dancing Peter Parker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Endlessly gifable, that would be. So I can't wait. So the group head off with Alpi to the next house call, but find it has been tampered with. And here's our setup for whatever's going to happen next.
Oh, what a great ending. Like, I'm so mad that I'm going to be... It's like 2 more days when we're recording this before I can read it, and it's already out.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty good. It seems like things are going to go to the paths next, or at least one of these other worlds, maybe the ruins, the abyss, or any of the other ones that were mentioned, which is crazy. I thought it would be at least another arc before we went there, but, you know, things getting real.
I actually got the impression at the end of last week's episode that we were going to go there pretty soon, but not...
This is very soon.
Not like this.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought we were going to start setting up rituals and do it in a controlled manner, which is just like, you know, I've read enough Wild Boy stories. I should know better than that by now. That's on me. I mean, this is so much fun, because it's not only, now that we have this mystery of another practitioner is involved hanging over our heads, but also, like, we don't even know where we're going in these paths. It's just like Miss, who seems to be very good at moving through them, because she can just teleport around town, which I assume involves the paths.
As can Alpi.
Yeah, exactly. So we kind of got these 2 experts leading the 3 of them, but we don't know where we're going. Like, you know, you talked about, are we going to the ruins or whatever? It's just like, we have no fucking clue. They're going to follow a trail, and that's going to be bizarre, and I can't wait.
I love that we might finally get the chance to see Miss in action as well, which I will be very thrilled for.
I'm super interested to see another practitioner.
Well, we've already seen one, and their names aren't Heather, because it's very interesting.
What a
this happened
coincidence.
right when Aunt Heather came around, right?
I mean, it's hard not to draw that line, but that's the thing. It's not hard to draw that line. So
yeah, exactly. Probably a bit too obvious, and that's why it's going to be, who was it, Melissa? No, Miss does.
Like, I think. Sorry, just for me, like with this, with seeing another practitioner. Wait, that's going to tell us so much about, I think, the future of the Kenneteers, or where they're heading, because we haven't seen any other practitioners, and we're starting to talk about them turning other, and our only other really practitioner that we've seen is Charles, who's like, you know, objectively a failure at it, and Matthew and Edith kind of don't count. So I feel like there's a lot for the book to say about like what it would be like to be a practitioner when we see our first ones. Not that, you know, we'll see a practitioner and then we can generalize and say for all practitioners they are as miserable or as happy as this person. But I think the book will kind of be making a statement like on what we should think about the practice when we meet our first like professional practitioner.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it will also shed light on, we've suspected for a while that something more is going on with the Kennet others. And I think seeing another practitioner might start to shed light on that.
Yeah, I think it would have to.
We should also point out that Miss has this bit where she explicitly says, these 3 girls are the only practitioners in Kennet, which ruins all my crazy theories.
Oh, what? Oh, no.
Isn't it tragic?
My apologies for your loss.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but we've already sort of been talking a lot recently about what is and isn't in Kennet.
Yeah.
Like there's all these other realms that they said are adjacent, but technically count as not being in Kennet. So has some practitioner just been like hiding out in the ruins in a way that's like in Kennet, but not in Kennet, you know?
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. We'll have to see when we meet them. But that's the end of the main chapters. Should we talk about the bonus bit called Gifts Collected, which is just a collection of Verona's emails?
Yeah, she sends some emails to the gang.
Yeah, basically just listing all the gifts that have been given and her thoughts and theories about each of them.
Yeah, it's another cool like recap.
Yes.
To just to sort of remind us where everything's at. Like I definitely got a lot out of this. I think it's also really fun to see like Verona's thoughts laid out like this.
Yeah.
Not just because like we didn't have a Verona chapter, but there's like a difference between seeing Verona's thoughts in her narration and like seeing her sort of compiled notes.
Yeah.
Like you know, talking to having a conversation with someone versus like reading their memoirs would be like a very different experience. And that's kind of what we get here. We get to see when Verona sits down and really thinks on it, how is she processing everything they've been through?
Yeah, I really like the section with the Fae because we get this beat. It's a consistent beat it's a very solid beat of Verona really stepping up in terms of like trying to be safe and careful, which is nice. Like she's explicitly thinking through, here are all the potential traps, here's what might go wrong. And there's a lot of really interesting, good thoughts in there that are like genuinely not things that I thought of about traps.
Yeah, I'd say there were maybe 50% of the traps she spotted, potential traps she spotted. I was like, yep, I'd thought of that. And the other 50%, I was like, fuck, good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I'm not sure exactly when in story, because like something I love about all this extra materials, the way it's tied into the story. Like it's not, like it's always meant to be from a point in the story and exist in it. I don't know exactly when these emails are meant to have gone out. Maybe the afternoon before Avery came over to Verona's house. Just because she doesn't talk about the extra gifts they got that night. So it's not like after 2.5. But to me, this is like our first look at the head of like new Verona, who is actually trying to take this stuff seriously for Lucy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's this other bit that I wanted to bring up, which is there's this one thing that Verona makes reference to Lucy having filled them in on stuff, and this happens a few times in this chapter where there's just small references of like, we filled Verona in on the Paul thing or whatever, right? And it makes me happy that these 3 are very, very much so spending time outside of what we see, filling each other in on what's being happened. Like there's no secrets between them about things that are happening. And I think that's great. It means that there's not going to be any like circumstances where one of them doesn't understand something that's going on because they are keeping each other abreast of everything that's happening. And I think that's awesome. And I think that I really like that being explicitly called out in the story.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that they are actually just communicating and being open with each other is such a good sign.
Yeah.
And it's also so rare in fiction. I think this is one of my like favorite rare tropes is like a team that is actually just well coordinated. There's not as much inter-team drama. They're actually just a unit. And that's sort of what I think the Kenneters are. Like they have their stumbles. Like, Lucy had to yell at them this episode, but for the most part, like they're actually just sort of communicating and it's so nice.
Yeah, it's great.
I also love how Toad Swallow is listed separately from all the other goblins. Like I don't know what to make of it yet, but he's just such a. There's something about Toad Swallow compared to the other goblins that just makes me like think there's something more to him, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what it is, but you're right. He feels a bit like larger than the others as a, persona.
Yeah, exactly.
And a bit different as well. Like, he's not quite as goblin as the other goblins are.
Yeah, or he's just different somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's an accident that he's listed separately from all the other goblins.
Yeah.
I also love how for the fairy part, Verona's started using like an out of 10 rating system for how good the gifts are. That was just that led to some great comedy beats. Those of you who listen to our other show, Media MD, will of course know that out of 10 rating systems are like foolproof and consistent.
Mm-hmm. Very, very consistent. No problems.
And so I love how like hilariously skewed the numbers are to like towards Verona's gifts as well. Like she's just like, oh, this is a 9.5 out of 10 gift.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. The one that she really liked was the mink one, which I thought was hilarious.
You could just imagine Lucy's response to
that email. Cool. So that's the main things to discuss. Before we wrap up, though, we want to pull out some predictions that people have made in Pale Predictor, our prediction application. So what's your Pale Predictor highlight for this week?
So I've pulled out one by Just So, who basically has put down a theory that Matthew was actually entrapped into becoming an other by the others of Kennet in the same way that they're doing to the Kenneteers. So, basically the idea that, they talked about Charles being their predecessor in a way, but they didn't say immediate predecessor. So,
yes.
I guess part of Just So's theory, actually, I don't know if Just So thinks Matthew's before or after Charles, but basically, at some point, Matthew may have been a practitioner who got roped into being the local practitioner for a bit with the idea that they pushed him towards becoming other. And so, he's a bit of a prototype, or, he's a predecessor for what the Kenneteers are.
You know what that makes me think? It makes me feel like the Kennet others have this system where they recruit people that are close to being others and groom them into others. And as others that are in Kennet become too, dangerous, John takes care of them like he did his other friend, or like the Hungry Choir, they're being dealt with as well, right? It's like it's this system of bring people in, turn them into others, and if the current others become too problematic, have John execute them, basically. And that's the dynamic that is being set up here, which is a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I mean, we sort of talked right from 1.1 about wanting to see more of the cracks underneath this seemingly great commune of others. This would maybe be part of that, because I think the fact that the Kenneteers aren't as unique or original an idea in the town, I think would sort of, to me at least, shake a bit of the specialness away from it. For the Kenneteers, it's a bit of a wake up call that they're just part of a pattern. They're
part of a system.
When things go wrong, we get some humans, we get them to do a job for us, and then we turn them into others. It's like it makes that plan feel even more gross. The fact that it's kind of systematized.
Yeah, for sure. Premeditated much more than we thought.
Yes. Yeah.
The prediction I pulled out was by a user called Verbal Shadow, who says, talking about the idea that the Carmine Beast should have remains that are left in town, Verbal Shadow says, yes, we've seen those remains because that's what our three main characters are. Three main characters are what remains of the Carmine Beast's power. The space of time between the death and the other's response is a big hint. These three were placed with people in town who wouldn't notice, a family with too many kids to keep track of, a mum who wanted another child, and a man who's so focused on themselves that the burden of a kid is barely noticeable. So damn, what a juicy theory. These three are actually the remnants of the Carmine Beast's power that has been given form and brought into the world, 5 to 6 weeks ago, and then just kind of placed into this society.
So as part of this theory that these three girls didn't exist
before,
6 weeks ago,
or 2 months ago. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess the most interesting thing, because obviously, if that's the theory, so Avery was just kind of slipped in and not noticed, as they said. Verona was kind of dumped on some poor lonely dude, who isn't coping well with his new reality of having a kid.
Yes.
Lucy's kind of the most fascinating one because, as they mentioned, like so Booker must have left out, and so I
Yeah.
guess Jazz
Lucy's
would have been
mum, yeah,
empty nesting
yeah,
like
exactly.
hard.
And Miss just dropped off like a stork, and then Miss actually is some kind of other version of a stork, presumably. Dropped off Lucy at the house. Yeah.
I mean, that's fascinating because, like, we've seen with the Hungry Choir that you can rewrite history in that sort of way.
That's kind of what this is playing into, right?
Yeah, so this is the reversal of that, where these three were created.
Yes, rather than erased. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's fascinating.
I love. I mean, obviously, there's more going on with why these three are picked and what's going on with the dynamics. And these theories, both the theories, yours and mine, that we picked out, I just kind of thinking about that more, and I love that. I think we maybe even should add a bit more of an official category to like what's going on with Kenneth as a category.
Yes, yeah, I think I want to start adding more categories soon. I'm noticing some trends in the miscellaneous category.
Yeah.
As well, I'm having to constantly delete packed spoiler predictions.
Oh yeah.
So I'm
Don't
almost
put
just wondering
spoilers
if we
in there.
spin
Come
up
on,
like a
folks.
second smaller sheet that's like chuck all your packed predictions here or packed influence predictions here.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Because some of them are great, but like I keep having to delete them because that's not what Pale Predictor is meant to have in it.
Yep. It's meant to be unspoiled.
Yes. I think, yeah, I mean, this whole thing with the Carmine Beast power is interesting. Like, the first time I read Verbal Shadows thing, I misunderstood it at the start. And I actually thought part of what they were implying was you know how we keep getting told the three Kenneteers are pulling power from the local others?
Yes.
I thought Verbal Shadow was implying they're actually getting their power from the remains of the Carmine Beast.
Interesting.
Because, you know, like we're seeing, you know, Lucy sees daggers everywhere. Verona sees her little
Yeah,
animals
we've seen the
behind the
tainted.
film
Yeah.
everywhere. Like there's been so much talk about where are the Carmine Beast's remains, and I can't help but wonder, like, isn't that just them everywhere, or is that like, is that meant to just be imbalance due to the lack of the Carmine Beast?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they've been told it is, but it could be because they are the Carmine Beast. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So some fun theories. We also have a discussion question for next time. If you want to discuss some stuff, you can do that in the discussion thread, which we link down in the show notes. The specific question we're going to be asking is, who is the most or least monstrous other in Kenneth? So let's take a look at these others and talk about how monstrous they are.
Yeah, this was sort of inspired by that conversation about Alpi, and, you know, is she actually
that bad?
Yeah, and I'm just curious to see, you know, I guess it's almost just pick an other and talk about like why they're the best or worst in town.
Evil or not. Yeah, I mean, I think the Hungry Choir is clearly the most evil, but if you have a thought that is contrary to that, leave it in the thread, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, actually, yeah, maybe it's poorly phrased. Don't feel like you have to do the most or least. To pick an interesting other or an other that you have a hot take on and go from there.
Yeah, give us your hot takes on the Kenneth others.
Yeah.
And for those hot takes, they can be left in the discussion thread, which we're linked in the show notes down below. You can also in there leave your thoughts on just the show in general. This episode, how you liked it, what you thought of our crazy theories. If there are any crazy theories you came up with, feel free to leave those in the Pale Predictor sheet, which will also be linked down below.
Yes, you can also come check us out on Twitter at MediaMD Podcast. That's where my live reads of the Pale chapters happen. I'd like to think they're fun. It's fun interacting with people as I do them. So, come check us out.
Yeah. If you want more of the Duff Media Network, you can go to duffmedia.com and check out all the other great shows on the network, including the Book Club has just released their episode on the Diamond Age. Is that correct?
Yes. So the Book Club happened live probably about 12 hours before this came out. But it will be on the Doofcast feed, or it's still available on YouTube if you want to watch the recording of the live session. Yeah,
actually, we haven't talked about this, but we've got more and more YouTube content that's coming out. We've kind of got our podcasts on YouTube, but we also have things like archives of all the live streams that you, Scott, and I have been doing over the past few weeks on the second channel, which is the Doof Plays YouTube channel. So if you want more Doof content that isn't just audio, head to YouTube.
Actually, it's worth plugging, and I probably should have done this earlier. By the time this is out, all Packed Up is on YouTube, actually, all 24 hours. So for those of you who followed Deep in Packed and maybe missed some of our content, or if you've just read Packed and you want to check out some of our 24-hour live stream, all 24 hours is nicely divided and tagged into
categorized.
Yep. So you can find any particular point you want. Personally, I'd recommend Well, the Walbo interview is
Yeah,
great.
for sure.
The Pact the Musical
That was going to be my
is a
next
fantastic
suggestion.
segment.
There's fan art ones that I think are great if you want to find the fan art sections.
Yes. If you go to doofmedia.com, there's actually a post there which has links to specifically all the tarot readings we did, all the fan art, all the various sections. So that's probably the best place to go to like find your way around if you're not familiar with what was in All Packed Up.
Yeah.
So just head to doofmedia.com and it'll be in the recent posts. It's called like All Packed Up Index or something.
Yeah. The All Packed Up live stream and a bunch of other content that we do at Doof Media only exists because we're supported by our patrons. So become a patron if you want to help us do more cool things. You can go to patreon.com/Doof Media and support us.
Yes, if you donate at the $10 or above tier, you get access to the bonus content that we make exclusive for those patrons.
Yep.
Ruben and I might have some of that coming soon. Where we'll talk about that if it gets closer. But right now, one of the things you get is each month, Matt and his brother Dan are recording what they call the Super Freeman Bros, which is basically just the two of them sitting down and talking about all sorts of interesting topics. So they just did one on like artificial intelligence and when it's going to take us over.
Yeah. So if you want some of that, head on over to Patreon and support us at the $10 a month or higher level. And while you're on Patreon, why don't you head to Wildbow's Patreon? Because, of course, Wildbow is also supported by his community. He is a patron-supported author. So if you want to help him write cool stories like this here Pale one that we're reading right now, head on over to patreon.com/Wildbow and support him.
Yeah, don't be one of those people who lets Lucy and Jasmine have no support network. You got to get out there and help support Wildbow by donating money to his Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. Wildbow wants to cut loose every once in a while, and he can only do that with everyone's support.
Yep.
All right.
So on that note, we'll see you all next week for presumably 2 more stolen away chapters.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the end. This could be we do end on a cliffhanger. It could be a conclusion of an arc here, and then next arc they go into the paths or whatever. But we'll see. Probably not. I don't know. Who knows?
No, I don't know. I hope not. I really want to see the paths from the perspective of one of the Kenneteers.
True, rather than do it in an interlude. A miss-interlude, perhaps.
Minced interlude.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll come back on that one.
Anyway, see you all next time. Bye.